what you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh.
Hi folks, Dr. J here with Youth for Life Retirement, and today we got two special ladies. Our guests are Rachel Carter, owner of Genesis Light Therapy, and one of their gut health specialists and practitioners, Wendy Naylor. So good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Thank you for being on the podcast this morning. It means a lot.
Thanks for having us.
So we're going to get right into it about Genesis Light Therapy. You state on your website that you're able to address pain and inflammation, migrate sport injuries, combat gut-related issues, and support cognitive health and targeted, individualized light therapy. Light therapy seems to be the new way forward in alternative medicine. So we'd like to dive into what it is, how it works, and how Genesis Light Therapy is the gold standard of this modality. Rachel, first one on the line here, the owner of it. First, can you tell our listeners how you came across the technology and what led you and your husband, Daryl, to bring it to Hickory, North Carolina?
Sure. We have a friend who was traveling to Arizona to get light therapy due to a cancer diagnosis. And as she was traveling back and forth, they suggested that she find someplace local that offered this type of technology. And this is pretty new. The technology is not new. It's been around since the 50s. NASA developed it. But to use it in this way has been fairly new. And so she found a place a few hours away from here that she was traveling back and forth to. She introduced it to a friend of hers, and they were taking trips back and forth to have this therapy done. And they became friends with the owners of the company. And because they were bringing so many people down with them, they asked the owner of the company, would you come to Hickory and set up shop and allow us to bring people? That way they don't have to travel. You come to us and we'll fill the schedule. And so they said, yes, of course, we'll do that. And so that's when she called me. She called and asked, hey, you have a studio, you have a place where we could use this. Can we use your office and have people come in and for the next 3 days or whatever it was? And so I told her, of course, doesn't matter to me. If nobody's using it, it's fine. So they did that. And she called me and she said, by the way, they said that since you're letting them use your office, they will give you a free treatment. And I didn't know what this was. Right. I was like, what? I don't know. I'm good. I'm fine. Y'all go ahead. And she's like, no, you really need to come in here and try this out. So I did. And I went in and met everyone. And so I'm like, I don't even know what I'm here for. So I sit down and she puts this probe in my hand and she said, this is going to scan your gut. I was like, okay. And so she did. And then this reading came up on the monitor. And one of the things she looked at, she said, oh, I see Epstein-Barr. And I was like, I don't have Epstein-Barr.
Right.
And she said, well, have you ever had mono? And I said, whoa. Not only did I have mono, but it about killed me. I was 14 years old. It was so severe. In fact, my doctor told me the only girl he had ever seen that had a case worse than mine, she died. Oh. I was hospitalized for 8 days. It was really bad. And so she said, have you ever had mono? And I said, oh, yeah. She said, well, that's the same virus that causes mono. This is Epstein-Barr. And Rachel, it still lives in your gut. And I said, kill it. What in the world? So she's like, okay, so here's what we're going to do. And then I laid down on this table and she began to use this light therapy on my gut for 10 minutes. And I'm asking a million questions. You can imagine this is completely foreign to me, but I'm like, so you're going to kill it and what happens? And she's explaining all of that. At the very end of it, after this 10-minute session, she said, now, Rachel, is there any other area of concern that you have? Particularly, do you have any type of pain or inflammation? Is there something else going on? Well, to back up, about 8 months prior to that, I tore my rotator cuff deep sea fishing with my family. And I had, we like alternative medicine. We hadn't done anything invasive, but all I had done was 8 months of chiropractic care, deep tissue massage, and just really trying to work with it as much as I possibly could. By then, I had frozen shoulder and I wasn't able to really lift my arm. And this has been 8 months and I could get my arm about halfway up, raised. Right. And I said, you know what? can this help my shoulder? And she said, sure. So she used the remaining time, 5 minutes, on my shoulder. And I said, so what's happening here? And she said, well, we're sending the white blood cells to that area. We're letting the white blood cells, your healing cells of your body, know that there's a issue, there's a cause of concern here. So it's going to send, this light is going to direct them to the shoulder pain. So I'm like, yeah, I'm all for it. So she does that. And I walked out expecting, to raise up my arm, and it didn't happen. But she told me this light will continue to work for the next 4 days. Well, I left and, hadn't really thought much more about it. 3 days later, I was sitting in my bed and reached over to turn on the lamp next to me. And I raised my arm like this. And it blew me away. In fact, I screamed for my husband, come look. And he came in the room and he said, what did you do? And I said, I don't know.
Right.
He said, and so I started moving my arm around, like full range of motion. And this was one treatment. And I was like, what is going on? How is this even working? And he said, was it that light? And I was like, you got to be kidding me. This really did this after all of this time. So, anyway, I had a chiropractor appointment the next day, and I went to the chiropractor, and I'm swinging my arm around, and he's like, what did you do? And I said, well, I did this light therapy. I mean, I don't even know how to explain it at this point.
Right.
And he said, well, we have our light therapy machine here. And I said, I don't think this is the same thing. Okay. And so that's basically how it happened. And at that point, the friend who brought me in on this to invite me to have it done in the first place, she said, Rachel, you guys should bring one of these to Hickory. And, we prayed about it and talked to my husband about it. And it was undeniable what had happened with me. I didn't care about the gut. I cared about what had happened. And it gave my range of motion back to my shoulder.
Right.
We're an active family, and so that meant a whole lot to us. So we invested in the technology, and we invited some people to come help us, and that's where Wendy comes in, and we brought it to Hickory, North Carolina.
That's an interesting start. I mean, it's lengthy, but you know what? Anything worth having is going to be lengthy. I mean, it sounds like you had a lot of thought into this.
Yes.
And a lot of backing. And that's the friend you were talking about, because we made a lot of notes in talking earlier, and it's something new to me, and it's probably something new to our listeners out there about this light therapy. So it's always, and a lot of people, we go through Hickory, we're county kids, right? We've been in Hickory all our life. And each and every year, I look back the previous year and I found, who did I meet new in Hickory? What business is new to Hickory that I never knew possible that was there? This is a new business that came to Hickory, and I just think, I'm glad it's here. It's going to be very, very interesting. So, you named about your friend who was traveling a few hours away to get the therapy. That's when you were talking about Genesis light therapy, Rachel. How did you come up with it? When I think of Genesis, I'm thinking of the beginning of the Bible.
That's
right?
exactly what we were thinking about too. Because, in fact, when we started this was really on a whim. We decided that we're gonna invest in this technology. We're gonna do it. We have the office space for it. Like I said, that's why they brought it to us to begin with. And it just really came into my head, Genesis, and God said, let there be light. And that's where it came from. And so we are using the same technology that the Lord has given us. And so we're using it for healing, just like he uses it for us.
Amen to that, right?
Yeah.
You can't go wrong when you got the Lord involved. That's right. Amen. Good deal. And you've got Wendy here, right? You've been in Catawba County all your life, right?
No, I'm a transplant. I won't say from where. But we've been here about 15 years.
So you're official North Carolinian, right?
Yes,
that's
I am.
Good. So
I denounced my former self.
I understand. So when you tell us about your credentials and how you're facilitating this technology for gut-related issues at Genesis.
Right. So I've been in the medical field. I've been a critical care nurse for over 20 years now. I had a personal health journey, a lot of gut issues and things in my 20s. So I decided to take a holistic route. So I've always been a holistic-minded person, even being in the medical field, which is a challenge. But so I've explored a lot of different options, particularly with gut health and alternatives. And our bodies I believe, are created to heal themselves. We just have to support it in the right way. So that was always been on my mindset. And Rachel and I have been friends for quite some time. So when she and Daryl were looking into this, she knows I'm kind of a research nerd. So she's like, research this, find out if it's legitimate. So, I go to the journals, and like she had said, they've been researching this. The technical term is photobiomodulation. So it means light therapy. But they've been researching this for decades. In fact, this and frequency medicine goes back to Tesla's time. So it's something we've known about for a long time and how the body works. But she said this company has taken that NASA technology and allowed it to bring it to something that we can use, in everyday life. So researching found out it was absolutely the real deal, and particularly this unit that we have. And so I'm like, I'm on board. Let's do this. So. And, knowing that, of course, our first interest was gut health, at least for me, because the gut is just the foundation of everything. Your whole body, I think it's the most important thing for your health that you can do is make sure your gut is good. So very excited that this was a new modality that we were able to use with people that were already working with, with holistic wellness. So this is definitely something I'm excited to be on board about.
It's good. Seems like Rachel and Dub added a good asset to the company. So
we did.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
I've heard of something called what is an F scan, and what are some types of pathogens that come up from the F scan?
Mm-hmm. So that's one of the things that makes this technology unique, this unit. There are, less than 30 in the country, and they do require that you have medical personnel on staff, which is why they, with my nursing credentials. So it's twofold. It's not just light. They're using technology software from Scandinavia. And what it allows us to do through frequency is to identify a list from a list of over 300 pathogens that have been cataloged in this unit. So through frequency, we are able to determine what the bad pathogens, and by pathogens we mean things that cause harm to your body, what is in your gut and in other parts of your body, but primarily your gut, that can be causing you harm. So things like, I'm going to tell you a secret.
Okay.
Everyone has parasites. I'm sorry, you have parasites.
It happens.
We do. Just the nature of how we live, what we're exposed to, where our food comes from. So it identifies all different types of parasites like liver flukes and hookworm and intestinal flukes, in addition to bacteria, viruses, fungi, even some types of molds. Obviously, all these things can cause us harm. Just the nature of them being in there, they release toxins. They can have multiple effects on our health. So this F-scan allows us to actually identify the species of pathogens that are in the gut. And then we use that, we interface it with the light, and we are able to completely ablate and destroy those pathogens, which is totally unique to this technology.
Let me ask a question on that. Mm-hmm. For the past, we're roughly the same age, and some of us maybe growing up in the 80s, sometimes fast food was really convenient, right?
Yes.
Everybody loves Mickey D's, but every day can be a problem. Mm-hmm. Folks are out there, they're asking questions. I want to eat right, I want to exercise. If people are eating better, can they still get those parasites, or maybe less? They can. Is that right?
Absolutely.
So no matter how well you eat.
We tell people will ask me, why do I have parasites? And I'm like, do you touch doorknobs? Do you walk barefooted? Do you garden? How many
do you
different
have a pet?
things? Do you have a pet? Yeah. Do you go fishing?
Do you eat produce? Yeah.
So you can eat right every day.
Yes.
You're still going to get, unless you live in a bubble, right?
Yep. Right.
Absolutely.
So interesting. Mm-hmm. I did not, because a lot of folks are thinking, how can I avoid these parasites? I want to make sure I do that. You can't, right?
You can't.
It's there. Interesting.
There are certain lifestyle choices you can do to maybe lessen. If you're an avid sushi eater, probably not a good idea.
Right,
you are
yes.
more likely prone to, getting parasites. Or if you are work in the agricultural field, or you're an avid gardener, maybe wear gloves. But bottom line is we're all exposed to it. We all have them, and it's a continual thing.
Interesting. This may sound a little crazy, but do people really pass parasites? It seems like it could be kind of awful, right? And I would be known as a parasite passer myself.
Right.
But maybe it happens.
Well,
You go first.
now awful to you, Jay, is exciting to me.
Right.
No, it
It is
absolutely
exciting because
Yeah.
it's like success. We got them.
But we're not
So-
passing no parasites here this morning, I hope.
No. Well, we may be because we treat ourselves with the light, but maybe
Understand. Right.
No, it's for the majority, a big chunk of what we're able to kill off is microscopic. So you will pass things, bacteria, viruses, that sort of thing, and you won't really see them. The quality of how things move may change, but for those things like our liver flukes, intestinal flukes, hookworms, pinworms,
Pinworms.
poleworms,
Right.
you definitely could see them. My
Dead.
experience,
They'll be dead.
yes.
Whoa.
My experience with that is actually, without getting into too much detail, I actually
Not
saw
go into detail.
I saw the eggs of a parasite, and I looked and I said, "Wow, I don't eat squash seeds, and that's what they look like." So when I researched, and it was the giant intestinal fluke eggs. So yeah, most of the things get obliterated, basically blown up, and we'll talk a little bit more about how that happens. So you really won't necessarily see whole parasites, although we have stories about that. That's happened, but you definitely will pass some stuff. Which in our world, it's great because better out than in.
And in some cases, you might not recognize, what you're looking at. But something that is very common is to be able to see biofilm, and it just looks like, how would you even describe it? Like a little piece of jelly, almost, that's clear. And so you may see something like that. Well, that's the home that they build. So when people say, well, I know I don't have parasites because my doctor, did a test and they tested me and I don't have parasites, and they did a stool sample. And they don't come out voluntarily. They have built homes in this biofilm, and this is where they reside, and they're not coming out. You have to destroy or break open that biofilm so that that gets them out, right? So, so you might see the biofilm. So if you see biofilm, you've gotten them, and so it's a lot easier to see that than it is to see whole worms or anything. But most people won't. I would say the majority don't. And most of them, like she said, are destroyed and they're microscopic, and you wouldn't recognize it anyway. And if you're freaked out about it, just don't look. We like to look.
Sounds like you do, right?
In fact,
With light.
Jay, I'll say that people kind of get a kick out of taking a picture of it and then sending it to us. How many pictures? We said we were going to build a photo album called like the family photo album.
Right, exactly.
Of like,
Right.
oh, don't worry, you're in good company. This is what everybody else is passing,
It's
So
like the Waltons, right?
the wall of worms,
Well, you hear about these parasites and how you could, by touching doorknobs and going to Walmart, for example.
Yeah.
How about all these businesses that we see, we go in and they've got what? Hand sanitizer. Mm-hmm. That probably doesn't lessen parasites, right? I mean, it's just,
it doesn't.
I guess it's good maybe for some germs, but realistically, parasites, they want to live. They want to find a good home, right?
Yep.
And do their thing.
Yeah. In fact, a lot of those antimicrobial agents actually work against us. Like Rachel said, we're very big proponents with natural health, natural
Right.
healing options. And we do have natural ways to kill bacteria that doesn't kill your own, what's called your own microbiome.
Right.
So all of those antimicrobial things are actually working against you. So they kill your natural defense. Therefore, you're actually more susceptible to things like bacteria, viruses, and parasites. So,
Who'd have thought? Because we're always thinking that hand sanitizers, all these cleaners, hey, I've got my armor on.
Right.
Which really, you're
Right.
breaking yourself down.
We are.
That's right.
We are. But we do have options for that.
Who would
too.
have thought that?
Yeah.
Another good question here. How is this different than someone doing a parasite cleanse?
Let me take that. So most parasite cleanses, they are, think of it more of a superficial level, right? Whether they're botanical things or teas or different homeopathic things, they may be able to kill some of the superficial, easier to kill type things. But like Rachel said, these buggers are tenacious. So they have a tendency to produce a biofilm that can't be touched by these antiparasitic agents. In addition, when they get really threatened, they actually will burrow into your intestinal wall and cover themselves up. So they're really not able to be touched. We both practice a very healthy lifestyle with a lot of alternative things. And we both had parasites. And we've been doing that for over a decade, and which was really surprising because, we kind of went in there like, we're not going to have parasites. And then to see that was a little disturbing. So those are things that help. Once you've killed things off, those things will kind of help keep that terrain from being inhospitable to you getting them again.
Right.
But things like that are not actually going to kill them. And if they do kill certain types of things, all of these things have things called neurotoxins, and they release them, and biotoxins, and they will release them. And that nature of releasing them without support can actually be harmful to you, can cause something called a Herxheimer reaction. Anytime you do a detox, you can have that, and it can cause symptoms from rashes to flu-like symptoms, but there can be really serious side effects. And so when we do it in a controlled environment like we're doing, and we support you from beginning to end and also with follow-up care, it goes one step beyond to ensure that not only are we killing them, but we're making it safe and healthy for you as well, and allowing your body to recover from that. So very different from a typical parasite cleanse.
One of the other things too is that not only does the light therapy, like where the light will actually ablate these things. So like she said, it is interfacing with the F scan of the things that are specific to you, so that we can dial this specifically to what you have. So you may have hookworms and pinworms and
E. coli.
E. coli and liver flukes, and somebody else might have a completely different panel or profile of things going on in the gut. So this is going to be dialed. That light is going to be dialed specifically to you. And one of the ways that they explain it to some of our patients is that it's like a sound that's so highly pitched that it breaks a glass. It's using that type of frequency that way, so that it's dialed specifically to that specific type of parasite to blow it up. And so when it blows it up, again, it's going to release those biotoxins into the body, which is going to make you really sick unless you're doing it with the right type of care. Then the light is able to not only get rid of the stuff, but light is healing. So the light can now go in and restore the damage that has been caused by the parasites. And parasite cleanses can't do this. So this was another thing that just really sets it apart and makes it look a lot different than, just trying to do something like that on your own without having the support and the know-how and, to be able to do it properly.
This is definitely not something you want to DIY, right?
No. Probably not.
It's just not.
Probably not.
If something like this is left untreated, what kind of damage? Could it do any damage?
Absolutely.
Parasites, what could they do?
Absolutely. And in fact, in the last just 5 years alone, we've noticed research has shown more and more the far-ranging effects that parasites can do in your body, the damage that it can do. So not only is it disrupting your gut health, it changes what's called the microbiome in your gut. And the microbiome is that those trillions of good bacteria, good viruses, good fungi that you have that help your body. It's responsible for your immune system. It's responsible for your brain chemicals. You have more brain chemicals in your gut than your brain. And so when you disrupt any part of that, it disrupts your whole body. And so that's not just gut issues, although things like IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, all of those things can definitely be traced back to parasite infestations and the other pathogens that we're killing off as well. But then you have far-reaching effects, neurocognitive deficits. They're showing huge links between that and Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, multiple sclerosis, non-neurotypical things like ADD, autism, again, related to the gut, very strongly related to the gut. So you're showing effects in that. And there's even research that's showing that they're starting to see a tie between parasites, gut health, and all types of cancers. So we know without a doubt that when you heal the gut, when you clean it out from these parasites, you are creating this foundation for your whole health and wellness. So it's absolutely crucial that we get these things out of our systems as quickly as possible.
Talking about these parasites, Winnie and Rachel, is there a certain time these rascals are more active?
around a full moon. And when I first learned that, I mean, as I'm learning this stuff, I don't have a medical background, Jay. So when I'm hearing this stuff, I'm just like, is this a joke? Like what
Really?
do you mean?
Right.
Like it sounds like so Halloween-y or something, like, oh yeah, they're really active around a full moon. And that was true. And I don't really know how to explain that, except one of the practitioners told me, well, you've heard the term lunatic. Like this is when people get a little, some people can get a little bit crazy. And she said there's just an activity that happens. And so maybe Wendy can add more to that. But yeah, we generally see a lot more happen around a full moon. We can treat this at any time. And so it's very important to treat it whenever you can. But a lot of times people will like to come in for a service update during a full moon.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. I mean, sounds like
absolutely.
a good service job would be good before the full moon, or maybe afterwards.
Full moon party at Genesis. Yeah.
Really, it's
A few
much
days
needed.
before and a few days after during that time frame. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Interesting.
And that's documented. That research is documented across the board. Yep.
Lots of people are using red light therapy. How is this different?
Well, I mean, you can go now on Amazon and buy a red light, right? And so it is definitely become very much on the forefront because of the nature of it and how it can heal. What makes ours unique are a lot of different factors. So again, ours is one of maybe less than 30 in the country. We have the technology, again, that is patented from a physicist at NASA. He used to work at NASA, and he saw the application from this and decided that he wanted to make it available to a certain individual select population. And so one of the very first things that you notice about our light is that it is only released and can only be purchased by clinics that have medical staff on board. So there are credentialed individuals that have to be operating it as primary technicians, which of course we have. So that in and of itself tells you the caliber of machine that we have. So another of the key factors is the power. Our unit is up to 10 times more powerful, has more milliwattage than the other average, red light or any kind of light on the market. So we are at over 75,000 milliwatts of power with both of the wands. In addition, we have, and what that allows us to do is really be more effective with the kind of light we can give. We give red light, blue light, and infrared light. So 3 different spectrums. So we're multispectral. And then when you combine those, you have, peripheral ones like violet spectrums. And each of those has different healing properties. It also has different depths of penetration into your body. So blue is superficial. The average red light can only go about an inch or so. And in fact, most commercial ones go about 3/4 of an inch. So very superficial. But ours with the infrared light, then we can go up to 11 inches. So when we are applying light to your abdomen or to your back, we're actually penetrating all the way through to your body, which was fascinating to me because a lot of times we'll have people with gut issues that concurrently have back issues. And they notice just by treating their gut, their back feels better. That's because the light is actually going all the way through and hitting their back. So, and in addition, there are 25, we use LED, light emitting diode technology. It's not a laser. And so there are 25 different light elements in that combined to give us all 3 of those different spectrums. So it's a premier unit and unlike anything on the market. And then coupled with that F-scan technology that no other light unit has, we're able to cover so much for people when they come in. We're not just limited to one thing. We're not just limited to aesthetics and skin or even just joint pain. We run the list. Pretty much anything that you have can be helped by our light, the technology that we have.
That is good. Mm-hmm. It's really, you just don't take care of one thing, you can see multiple things. Outstanding. Exactly. Rachel, your husband Daryl, former collegiate athlete, right? He's very passionate about high school and college sports. How is this therapy helping with sports-related injuries?
That's right. We are a sports family, and so that, of course, started with Daryl, and he is a high school varsity baseball coach right now. And we see types of injuries we have for a long time. Our son, our youngest, who is 16, is a baseball player, and so we've seen all sorts of sports injuries, whether it's from concussions or maybe if somebody's a pitcher and they're throwing and they're working, the arm in a certain way, the elbow. You see all these kids, even as teenagers, getting Tommy John surgery. We have, football players that have knee injuries. And so, high school sports can be pretty difficult on a body. And so with what happened initially with my shoulder and how it was able to heal that injury, it was kind of an aha moment of like, this is something we can use in sports therapy. And so because we are around a lot of other athletes and even our own son, we've been able to use this light to expedite healing, especially when somebody, has an injury. And we have athletes now come in, middle school, high school, collegiate athletes that come in to be able to get moving, further down the road in their healing, especially if they've had a surgery or if they've got an injury, they're having to sit out, and it's slowing down the time for them to have to be off the field so they can get back on the field.
Oh, outstanding. That's who'd have thought, right?
Right.
I mean, some people think this is for older people, right? But it's even for high school athletes and collegiate athletes.
Absolutely.
I think your son Jude, we mentioned Jude earlier, he has benefited from this kind of therapy following a knee surgery. Has that helped him a good bit?
It has. It has. In fact, Jude has been a major recipient. He's often he's probably there every week. He's getting some type of therapy. It's our secret weapon.
Right. That's good. That's right.
He's
Keep
quite
it a secret.
He's quite an athlete. But truly, I mean, we can't deny that some of the benefits that he has had as a result of using this. From the time when he pitches, that's great strain on the arm. And my husband's career was cut short as a pitcher, a baseball pitcher at NC State, because of overuse of the arm. So with Jude, we were really proactive with pitch counts and all of that. But we also we do light therapy often before he pitches or after he pitches, sometimes both, especially for these tournaments. It can be very, very beneficial for that. But recently he had a knee surgery. He's only 16, but he had a, what did he have? Patellar tendon was torn. Mm-hmm. And so he had to have that reconstructed. And they gave us an estimate about how long he would be out. And, we've got baseball season coming up, the big one for this summer. And so we really wanted, if at all possible, to expedite the healing. So we started doing light therapy as soon as he was done with the surgery. Just started doing the light around the area. And he goes a couple of times a week, I guess. And they have said, the doctors are even saying that this has really expedited the healing. Probably 2 to 4 weeks, he's ahead of schedule. And they're just like, wow, he's really healing so fast. And we're like, well, there's a reason, So because what's happening is the light is creating vasodilation, and it is opening those blood vessels, and it is signaling to the white blood cells in the body, go here. There's damage here. We need you to go here. We need you to stick around and do some healing on this area. So it's not the light. The light's not doing the healing. Your body is doing the healing. This is just facilitating it and kind of shining the light of, pardon the pun, of where to go.
Right, yes.
So it's giving it the runway of like, this is where you need to be. This is where you need to spend the time. And so when your white blood cells are going to that area and they're facilitating and continuing to stay in that area to heal, you get an expedited healing process. And that can pay dividends, whether you are trying to get back to work after post-surgery, whether you're an adult or if you're an athlete trying to get back on the field because you've got a team to support and scholarships on the line or whatever.
You got life, right?
That's right.
And it doesn't stop for anybody, even bad knees, broken arms, or anything.
Correct.
So it's good to have that going.
Right.
Outstanding. Wendy, supporting healthy cognition is another benefit of this treatment from what I've been hearing. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. That was actually one of the things I was really excited about when they first asked me to research this. So sports and healing in the gut were things I found in the research. But another really emerging topic was neurocognitive deficits and light therapy. There's a whole series of research that's being done all around the world to support this and to support the use of light in brain health. And it's extremely fascinating. Not only does it improve vasodilation in the white blood cells, like Rachel said, they are finding that it affects your cellular energy down to the mitochondria level. And I promise I won't bore you with the biology, but basically it is allowing your cells to have the energy they did when they were younger and perform better. And so what that means is increased healing, increased gut health, but it also is increased brain health as well, even to neuroregeneration. So regeneration and creation of new neural pathways. And that is really exciting for things like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementia. It's even shown, preliminary studies have shown that it is increasing the production and differentiation of stem cells. And if you're not familiar with stem cells, it's those baby cells that can become anything. And in the brain, that's crucial when we're trying to repair and regenerate nervous tissue, because up until this point, we've thought that that's not even possible. So that is extremely exciting that we're able to see that. And we have seen that. That is a fairly good chunk of clients that we have are individuals with neurocognitive deficits. And so not just the degenerative things like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, but also ADD, autism, even anxiety, depression. Because again, concurrently, we're also doing the gut, so you're affecting the gut. And by doing that, you're increasing your production of good brain chemicals. And then we're directly applying the light on the cranium, and that is showing positive results with dementia and Alzheimer's patients. So it's a really exciting avenue that we're exploring with that. And the research is proving it. It's showing that it is causing legitimate healing and even reversal of some of these conditions.
This is not something that was just, hey, this has been on the market for a couple of weeks. Yep. It was just thought about a month ago. Bam, it's on the. This is something that's had a lot of thought, years of development.
Yep.
That's good. Outstanding. Yeah. You have been asked to participate in certain clinical studies. Mm-hmm. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So we've developed a very good working relationship with the owners of Bales Photonics, which is the company that makes this Firefly treatment. And we've expressed an interest in kind of going next level. All of us there are very, very much probers and questioners, and we want to go the next level. And so we had expressed an interest in maybe doing some case studies and just clinical trials. And what we're working on for the first part is, because of our connection with sports and also our affinity towards helping people with neurocog deficits, we are going to be taking part in some what's called a TBI studies. And TBI is traumatic brain injury. Those are things that can happen from concussions or accidents, any kind of damage that we can sustain to the brain. So we are gathering some clients and we're opening it up to participants. We're going to narrow down our focus primarily to concussion patients to begin with, but we definitely see the likelihood of expanding to all different types of neurocognitive deficits and doing case studies.
And that type of therapy, what's that for? You might have explained that this type of therapy, it's
for traumatic brain injury. TBI.
Right? Is that right?
And that can even flow into PTSD, stress trauma, because they know that there are definite brain changes with that, and we've seen results with that in PTSD, different types of studies. So.
And one of the things too is that if there are people listening to this who have recently had a concussion, we want them to get in touch with us because we are facilitating this study, and so we need participants. Do you know much about? Do you have a better profile of what to explain for that?
We are primarily looking with teenagers to early 30s as far as participants, and recent concussions within preferably the last month. If someone sustained any kind of head trauma or head injury, concussion, specific to the neurocog. However, this is, we're looking at expanding other areas of clinical trials. We're actually exploring the option of using this for long-haul COVID. We know that's become very much on the forefront.
Right.
And so they've seen some amazing changes, particularly with lung fibrosis and the treatment with this light therapy. So Pretty much anyone from age 4 to 84 can be treated with this
And
light
you mentioned
therapy.
concussions. I mean, we've got our university right here. We got all the high schools.
Yes.
All the star athletes, student athletes are out there with concussions from football to wrestling, you name this, baseball. I mean, it can happen to just about anyone.
We have a young lady, she's in her late teens, and she sustained a concussion. Now, this is outside of the parameter of the study, but she sustained a concussion, it's about 2 years ago. And since then, she's had almost daily headaches, stabbing pain 3 or 4 times a day with blurred vision. It took her months to recover from that initial concussion. And then she had a car accident a few months after that.
Really?
This was a few years ago. And so she was still having issues. She's been to a neurologist. She's been taking medications and nothing was touching it. She was still having these daily issues. Well, she came in initially, she's an athlete. She came in initially for help with her neck and shoulders. And she happened to mention that she was having this issue. So I said, let's go ahead and treat your cranium. And it was just on that side. And that was just for 5 minutes. And after 2 or 3 treatments, she said, I'm only having maybe 1 headache episode a day. And so that was exciting because we're almost 3 years out from her concussion. And the fact that she's seeing results from that, positive results, it's pretty amazing. So.
Now, I was mentioning the athletes, but also
Yes.
car accidents,
Yes.
like you just mentioned. I mean, anything can trigger a concussion like that.
Absolutely.
So
And especially, when somebody has a concussion, they're so much more prone to having another one. And so when you're talking about athletes, and that's something that, we're really passionate about. Our son, Jack, had a concussion. It was before we had this type of therapy, but we were in the hospital and he was it was bad. So now that we have this, this is just another opportunity to be able to share something that with somebody that it can really help them. So if somebody does meet those parameters, just know that as we're doing this study, it would be of no cost to them to be able to do this study. So if anybody's listening and you fit this profile, please get in touch with us.
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
You can't beat that. So, and the way it sounds, this is not a one and done treatment. It's a process. Anything that's going to be good and lasting is going to be a process. It's not like you're in and out quicker than a
Absolutely.
Domino's pizza delivery, right?
Absolutely.
So tell me a little more about that.
Sure. So initially, we set you up with treatment packages. Now, per the owners of the company and the creators of this, it does take repeated sessions for you to be able to notice a difference, particularly when we're talking back to the gut and making sure we're killing everything in the life cycle and getting all those things out of your burrowed in, areas. But also particularly with neurocog deficits, we want to create new neural pathways. So we set you up with an initial treatment, typically 12 to 18 treatments. And then from there, we work with you. And as far as the light, we have you come back quarterly just for maintenance. We rescan you. We see how things are going. But then in addition, as we're walking through with the light, we're also supporting you. We have nutrition counseling. We mentioned some natural, health options to help support, to help your detox process, to help your growth and renewing, restoring, regeneration along the way. We do repeated diagnostic testing with both the F-scan and other different technologies that we have because we're making sure that your whole body is good. Again, we just don't want you to come in and lay on a mat and then you're done. We believe that this is a journey for you and we are enthusiastic about partnering on this journey with you. It's a wellness journey. And this is just basically starting at the foundation level. We want to clear everything out. We want to give you a good solid foundation. And then we want to educate you and work with you on how we can continue this journey with you for a wellness lifestyle. That's who we're about. We're root cause kind of people, and we want to make sure we're getting to the root cause of all the things you're dealing with. So yeah, it definitely is not just a one and done, get some light and then have, see in a few months. So
Right.
it's a constant partnership.
And the light will also, because, as we're using that specific frequency on them, one pass might be targeting the teenagers, when I'm talking about the age range, one pass might be more of the larva or eggs. One pass might be more adults. And then you've got different species too, because If you have one type, you probably have several types. And notwithstanding, there may be viruses there. Like mine was Epstein-Barr virus. I didn't know that was in my gut, but I don't want it. I want to take care of that too. So what else do you see when you're under the hood, kind of thing? And so this is something that we have to do it over a period of time, but it's kind of a fresh start. And then you are educated with these new lifestyle changes to hopefully prevent some of the things that, are happening. But when we first start working with somebody, keeping in mind, these have probably been there for a long time. For instance, I'm thinking of someone who is in her mid-20s, and she was diagnosed with IBS at like 11 years old. Well, what that was parasites. And it's been a difficult journey for her. She hadn't had a solid bowel movement since she was about 11 years old. And they chalked it up as just IBS, kind of put it under that heading. And once it was diagnosed, no, there are parasites here. It takes time to be able to take care of each one of those and going through the process of eliminating them. And then we're able to, give her a completely fresh start.
Folks that are out there listening, Rachel, Wendy, someone that says, I'm sold. I want to come in and get a scan and treatment. What does one need to be prepared for preparation purposes?
One thing, in order for the scan to work properly, because we want to be able, I try to explain it in layman's terms to people. It's almost like the scan is looking through the cells of your body. And if you're not hydrated, if you're not properly hydrated for the scan, it's not getting a reading. It's not able to scan through and look at your cells. So we want those cells to be plump. We don't want just water in your belly. So don't down something in the, out in the parking lot and then come in because it's in your stomach. What we want is your cells to be properly hydrated, so that as this scans, it can get a better look as to what's going on in your gut, in your cells, because it will detect even wart, right arm. It does. It's so random, and like we've seen African eye worm. We're just really crazy things that have come up. Yeah. So, but it needs to be able to see through those cells. So we want you to be properly hydrated. So that would be the one thing. Start drinking the night before or the day before. Add some Himalayan salt to your water or under your tongue. Drink some electrolytes, and then drink again that morning coming in. That's one of the things that I can think of that they want to be prepared for.
Mm-hmm. As far as the consultation and treatment itself, we set aside at least an hour for that initial consultation. We want to make sure people are understanding completely what's going on, why we're doing this, what everything entails. We do a scan, and we will, if it looks good and if they're ready to go, we will actually typically start that day. Sometimes we do hold it off a little because we have to prepare their body to be able to be cleared out. And for anyone that's done any kind of detox, you really want your body to be in good working order before you put a whole bunch of stress on it, which this is. It is a bit of stress for your body. So we will often prepare them with things that we can do ahead of time to start kind of pre-detoxing their body. And then once they start the treatments, they're very simple. Each treatment is only 10 minutes. And so we will treat for 10 minutes. If we have chronic individuals that are coming in with multiple health issues or specific gut issues, we'll treat the gut primarily for the first few treatments. We want to make sure all of those good healing factors are going to the gut, killing things off. And then after that, maybe by the fourth or fifth treatment, we can actually do, like in Rachel's case with the shoulder, we can do a subsequent area, one other area of your body. So we have a lot of individuals that have chronic pain, arthritis, neurocognitive things. I mean, anything pretty much you can think of, we could do as a secondary treatment in that same visit. So we can treat you for a total of up to 20 minutes.
And there's no additional charge for that.
Additional charge. Yeah.
Heard electrolytes earlier. Gatorade? Is that? That's not the electrolytes I'm thinking about.
No.
Wrong electrolytes. A lot of folks would be thinking that, right? Gatorade.
Right.
Am I correct?
We will definitely provide you or steer you towards very good natural options. Like Rachel said, just some Celtic or Himalayan sea salt under the tongue is good. Right. But we do have natural options. Unfortunately, I hope this is all right to say, things like commercial sports drinks actually are counterproductive because of the sugar, because of the dyes and the chemicals. You can actually end up dehydrating your body. So,
but that's not what the commercial says, right?
Right.
They're saying, buy me now.
Correct.
Good to know. Good to know.
Yes.
Can you share with us, some of the listeners, without naming names, some of the testimonies or outcomes people have seen from using this service?
I can start. I mean, we've mentioned, myself, with that, and we've had other people come in with shoulder injuries, and then it's helped to expedite their healing. With my own son, that has seen that with all the sports injuries. But Wendy knows some that with cognition, gut health has been something that has really risen to the top. People who have had, just like I'd mentioned before, the lady who was 11 years old with IBS, just in her case, just thinking that I'm just going to have to be on medication the rest of my life. And we're like, no, let's just peel this back and see what's really going on here. And then we're able to address the root cause. But I know that Wendy is there on a day-to-day basis, along with Amy, our other person who is there that helps with this. And so they have more testimonies they can share.
We have. It's pretty much everyone that comes in has seen some sort of improvement. But I think some of the ones that stand out for me, like I said, we have a lot of individuals with neurocognitive deficits. One lady in particular, I believe she's in her early 80s, was pretty late set dementia. And she and her husband would actually travel almost 2 hours. It was about an hour and 45 minutes. They were coming back and forth 3 days a week for treatments, long term. And after I believe it was about the fourth treatment, she came in and she was just beaming. Now, prior, she couldn't finish her sentences. She had a hard time with eye contact. She would just get lost in her thoughts, just in sitting in a conversation like you and I are having. So she came in that day, and we'd noticed improvements, but she came in that day and she was just beaming, and she said, I have some great news. She said, when I go to unload my dishwasher, typically I can't do it all. She said, because by the time I get through the bottom part, I forget where the dishes go. And she said, this morning, she said, I could unload my whole dishwasher. She had remembered exactly where her dishes went. And for us, that seems simple task. But for someone in her condition, that was a huge, huge breakthrough for her and huge progress, and gives her hope that this actually does work. We've had individuals with, one lady in particular has really bad neuropathy, peripheral neuropathy, and every night going to bed with pain, and you lift her feet and just discoloration and pain and cold. And she is thrilled. She came in almost running the one day. She said, look at my feet. And she's like, this is great. I'm not being woken up at night. I mean, story after story, individuals with chronic pain, rheumatoid arthritis, back pain, showing relief and range of motion things. And then, of course, the athletes, several athletes who have scholarships on the line. We have a couple who are going off to college, and we're very concerned, that their hopes might not be fulfilled because of their injuries, and being able to get them back on the field. And it's more just the field, it's their futures. Right. So just I could probably sit here for an hour just relaying stories of success. And for each individual person in their life, those are huge events. To those of us who don't suffer from chronic issues, you don't know what it's like. But for those of us who do, to be able to have victories like that in 10 minutes, 10 minutes, a few days a week is huge. So a lot of really good success stories.
That is good. Mm-hmm. You're helping change people's lives
Absolutely.
for the better.
Absolutely.
When some of them thought they were going to have to be like this for the rest of their life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Medicine lists, a page long, and we're able to really knock a lot of those medications off. And of course, coupled with the natural things that we do in addition to that. But the light is really able, again, to just give them a new direction that they didn't think was possible. So,
Very good. Very good. Right now, we've been told by Rachel and Genesis Light Therapy, right now, we're offering all our listeners, all the patients out there, a free scan, right, Rachel? Wellness consultation and first treatment at no charge. That's a pretty good deal.
It is a good deal.
Rachel, what's the value of something like that, and how do people make an appointment if they want to take advantage of that special offer?
That's about $150 value, and we are offering that right now free. And so we find the value in getting people in and letting them see success so that they can share that with other people. It gets the ball rolling for them. This one session may not take care, because taking care of the gut takes multiple sessions, but at least we're able to take this time to give them a true diagnosis about what's going on, what's in your gut. Here's the things that show up. And, you're going to see a lot of things on this list that you may not know that you have, that you've got to deal with. And now you've got a decision that you can make. And so then we will allow you to get on the table and start that process while we're talking to you about what's happening. Here's what the light's doing. And, just give them a little bit of a taste of, this is what the therapy would look like. Here's what our whole program would be, and then allow them to make a decision from that point on. But Amy and Wendy take such great care of everyone. And one of the biggest pieces of feedback that Daryl and I get is just, we love Amy and Wendy. They just really take such an interest in people and your situation, and can explain what's on your scan and walk through, something, give some of the names that show up on this scan, that anaplasma marginal, and I'm like, what is that? Oh, it's Lyme disease. Really?
Yeah.
It's Lyme, or
and cyclostoma caninum, which is a worm.
So they know these, like, it all comes up in Latin names, so they can interpret it on a whim, but I take my iPhone and take a picture of it and then hit look up, and it, so I cheat it, but they're really good about finding it. But, and what this is doing is the scan itself is going to show what's showing up in the gut. And then there you'll see an MV score that's next to that. And that's basically how hard your immune system is working in this area. So if you've got at the top of this list things that are in green, which is active, this is what your immune system is actively working on. And so then you'll see red and brown sections at the bottom. And this means that those fragments have been detected in your gut, but they are dead, dormant, or dying. You don't have to worry about those. And sometimes people may see plaque in there that what did exist, but it's not causing you harm right now. It could be flu A and B, or something else that maybe you had at one point, but it's not actively causing harm. So we're looking at the things that are showing up in green. And so they're there to be able to show you the scan, print it off for you. You can take it home and do additional research if you'd like. But they can sit and talk to you about what's happening here. And, sometimes people might see something and it can freak you out a little. Like, wait, I've got worms? Like, well, what's
Really?
going on?
Right, not a dog.
And you've got professionals who can say, we all have got worms. It's okay. And let me work you through this. And, and in some situations, maybe they're praying with a client, or they're just being able to just laugh with them and minister to them and love on them and care for them. But we're offering that completely free. So if people want to get in touch with us, the way to do that is you can go to genesislighttherapy.com. is our website, or better, our phone number. This is the easiest way to catch us. And if somebody's working, you can leave a message and they'll return the call. But the phone number is 828-578-6316. And they can call and leave a message, or with somebody there to pick up the phone, make an appointment and come in, and just let them know that they heard the podcast or that they've talked to us, and they want to be able to come in for the free scan and treatment, and we'll get them on the schedule.
I've heard a lot of things during this time about, I think you even mentioned the word cancer, right? Cognitive issues. These things can happen. Right, if they're left untreated,
that's right,
it could be a cause of cancer. And who'd have thought that Genesis Light Therapy could be a step in the right direction? It obviously was with this lady right here with her dementia situation. Your son Jude, for example, and all the other athletes, people in general out here. There's so much. You could touch a lot of people with this. It's outstanding.
Absolutely.
Right?
It's a ministry.
It's good to know, because people don't know that's out there, Rachel. When they think it's, what's this business right here? It's light therapy, right? I got lights in my house. What do I need light therapy on me for?
Right.
This is something totally different that can really benefit. Really, who can it benefit?
Everyone.
Everybody.
We can treat
out there.
as early as 4, and we do. We have some 4-year-olds that have some health issues, and up to until you have breath in your lungs.
Who'd have thought? Even the healthiest people out here
Absolutely
have parasites in them.
Yep. Well, and one last story is that I worked with a lady who eats very, very healthy. And she said, how could I have parasites? I eat so healthy. And I said, so you eat all organic? And she said, yes. And I said, so all your produce is all organic? She said, yes. And I said, so they don't spray it with pesticides? And she's like, oh. And I said, that's right. So you have to choose, do you want chemicals on your food or do you want to deal with the parasites later? Because, you're going to pick up things, you know? And so even those who eat super healthy, they need to come get scanned because we can be able to reveal what's actually going on there. And it's okay. I would prefer to go the organic route myself because we have a way to deal with the parasites later.
That's good. Website, genesislighttherapy.com. It's got their website. You mentioned the phone number earlier, Rachel. Folks, Rachel Carter, Wendy Naylor with Genesis Light Therapy. I mean, special guest here on Dr. J's podcast. Folks, hope you learned something new today. I know I have, personally. Probably infected with parasites. That's something that can be fixed. There's not an end to it. So
you can come in and get a free treatment,
Yes,
We
got you.
I think it was offered here today. Folks, you can be part of that as well. Be part of these success stories. We're all wanting to make sure, what can we do to live a healthier life, a happy life? Folks, there's no better time to start than day one. Let today be your day one. I'm Dr. J, the Doctor of Life Insurance, with Rachel Carter and Wendy Naylor of Genesis Light Therapy. Ladies, thank you so much for being part of the podcast today. It truly meant a lot to me. Learned a lot. I'm Dr. J. Thank you so much. God bless you. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you. Hey folks, Dr. J, Unit for Life here. Today we had special guests from Genesis Light Therapy, Rachel Carter and Wendy Naylor. They explained how just about any one of us needs this particular service they offer. It can affect any one of us. What got me very curious was when they mentioned something about cancer. Folks, cancer is something we've talked about on my previous podcasts. It could happen to anybody, not just someone that may have an unhealthy lifestyle. My question for you is this: could you ever be diagnosed with cancer? I would say that could be a yes for all of us. My other question would be this: do you have a policy, a life insurance policy, that if you were diagnosed with an illness such as cancer, would you have anything to protect you against that? In other words, could you draw any kind of funds off that to help pay your mortgage, your car payment, or just basic living expenses? A lot of folks out there would answer no, because they don't. They could have policies to just pay upon their death. My challenge to you is contact me today, Dr. J. Moore, at 828-217-1045. Let me show you how my policies with Transamerica, the ones that have the living benefits, can help people that could be diagnosed with illnesses such as cancer. Because if you were, based on how severe that case is, you could withdraw up to 90% of your face amount of your policy. That's right. Unlike typical policies that only pay upon your death, my policies actually pay, they put money in your pocket based on the severity of the illness. What do you have to lose? When half my business comes from folks who already have life insurance, once I show them what I have with Transamerica compared to what they're already paying for with the competition, a lot of folks joining me, what do you have to lose? Contact me today. Let me show you how people like Rachel Carter herself and her husband Daryl are not only friends of mine, but also clients of mine as well. That's right. They trusted me, Dr. J, with their own personal life insurance. Why not you trust me today? Thank you so much for listening to me, folks. God bless you.
You've been listening to The Mesh, an online media network of shows and programs ranging from business to arts, sports to entertainment, music to community. All programs are available on the website as well as through iTunes and YouTube. Check us out online at themesh.tv. Discover other network shows and give us feedback on what you just heard.